Yeah, so what was it, around 2 o'clock yesterday, wasn't it? That we found out the news yesterday of another point deduction, another 2 points off, which takes it to like 8 points now overall. I mean, what was your like immediate reaction to that?
Uh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I know I don't know what going to be a points deduction, are they? And nobody is happy at all about it, which is a wider thing. But in terms of the actual amount, I was expecting four, just because Forest got four. With working with, they got the mitigating circumstances, and that went down to four from six. I was expecting we'd worked with the Premier League this time a bit better than the first time. I was expecting 4 points. So when I saw two, I'm glad. I mean, at that point at two, it seems really, really low to the point of what's the point. But I'll take two. I'll take two. It just means the win at the weekend was more important because it's basically redundant, like made that redundant now and into a draw. But yeah, I'll take 2 points. I'm not happy about it as a whole, but it could have been worse.
Yeah, I think one of the mitigating factors was the early admission of guilt, and I think that may have helped us a lot. But there's a bit of an issue now, isn't there, where there's like three different commissions coming out with three different points deductions. I mean, where's the fairness? Where's the consistency? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this might be the problem when you because like you said, it was a 10 from the first deductions, then the appeal knocked it down, and then this one's decided to. I think this is the problem when you are changing the rules on the fly, because the rules from the first 10 have now changed. At the first 10, they were trying to do us for like, was it point per 5 million you're over, 2 points per 5 million you're over. They've sacked that off by the time Nottingham Forest were judged on it. And now with ours, they seem to have started a new rule. Next year, it's going to be a tax, so the rules change again. So I think this is what happens when the rules are constantly changing and you have different people judging it, because it's all about perspective at the end of the day. People will judge it differently. The people on the commission they might not have a certain bias, but also they might have a different perspective, a different opinion. It's not being judged with the same stick. It's being judged with different measurements and different people's human, perspective. So it is a little bit hard to figure out where the exact ruling is. Is there an exact black and white rule to it? And I think the other thing is what people are taking into account. Obviously, the first time they didn't really take much into account. This time they're saying about the sponsorships and obviously the sanctions on Russian sponsors, which is again crazy. I'm not too sure how Everton can be punished for something out of their control, like a war in Europe. But yeah, it's the more the points deductions come out and the more the commissions sort of the rulings come out, the more it for me highlights that it's a bit of a no one knows what they're doing type of thing. And whatever happens next season, whether they scrap it, whether they keep it, whether they change the punishments, it needs to be a black and white rule. It shouldn't be two teams now, three different measurements throughout.
Yeah, well, it's true, isn't it? When you said about the mitigating factor of the whole USM thing and it was Alicia Usmanoff and that, it's in the previous commission they said that that wasn't a mitigating factor and Everton should have been more careful. But this time it is seen as a mitigating factor. It just seems stupid to me. And I mean, of course, fans and it doesn't seem fair that a commission come up with a different kind of like statement on basically agreeing that in this commission that it can be a mitigating factor, but previously it couldn't be. I mean, there's no fairness, is there?
No, and I think that's where it comes down to different people's perspective. Obviously, this board have now gone and thought, well, it really isn't down to Everton that that's happened. But obviously, the first lot decided that we should have been a bit more vigilant when picking sponsors, which, by the way, in hindsight, it's lovely, but you couldn't have said when we accepted it, oh, don't have him because he's Russian, because that's a dangerous precedent to set, starting to do that. So we couldn't have been that careful, really. We didn't know what was going to happen, and you can't start saying we're not accepting sponsors' money because of their nationality, because that's a really dangerous precedent to be set in.
Yeah, well, you look at the Burnley game on Saturday. I mean, for me, I think there must have been some sort of psychological effect on these players. I know it was 13 games without a win, and we finally get that win against Burnley, and now it just seems like it's almost been like chalked off, and now it's just a point. It's almost as if they scored a 90th minute equaliser. I mean, you said that you're happy with the 2 points, but surely you are beginning to feel frustrated that we're constantly fighting against this grain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that it wasn't four. That's. I knew we were getting done. I'm just happy it wasn't what I thought it would be. But it does make the whole result. Now I've seen jokes on social media. Burnley equalised 48 hours later, and it does. I feel sorry for the players because they look like they're really struggling. Calvert-Lewin gets his first goal or second goal back to back, but he's been waiting ages for that first one, and now he's got two. And it was well earned as well. He saw the keeper and caught the keeper out, and now it's just been made to go to a point. And if you're the players and every point matters, there must come a point now where, because we're in for a third apparently, potentially, you must be like, if you're the players, thinking, what's the point? Because whatever you gain, it's just going to get knocked back off, sort of thing. They're fighting what looks like an uphill battle. So I don't know how the manager himself, his staff, are motivated, and then trying to motivate the players to say, come on lads, because it just seems like one step forward, two steps back for them at the minute.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Well, it's also been said as well, like overall, with all these commissions and the Premier League, like referring us to these commissions, they've suggested that, like altogether, that if they got their way, 17 points would be taken away from us. Like, do you think there's a bit of an agenda against Everton?
I mean, 17 points is a lot, and I'm very, very careful to say there's an agenda, because I know people will pick out and go, "Oh, sure," and we're not the only team now to be done by it, but there does seem to be a bit of a. I think it's a bit that the rules aren't built to help teams get out of it, and now we're in it, we are stuck. It feels like unless we get mega rich owners who pump in money very quickly and a lot of it, we are going to be talking about points deductions for Everton for a while, because it's by the financial year. And I feel like we might be, despite being quite frugal in the last couple of years, we might still be in the red because of stadium costs, either that or unless we sell our two big players this year that are rumoured to leave. I just don't think the rule is built to, like, it's punished us, but I don't think it's built to help you get out of it either. I don't know where or what they expect Everton to do while the stadium's being built, and people are going, oh well, the stadium. I saw someone the other day saying about the stadium, and they're like, well, Luton put theirs on hold. Ours was half built by the time this was coming up. You can't stop a half built stadium, tell all the contractors, all the workers working on it, and all the fans, and go, well, up until we're out of this mess, it's just going to be put on hold. It's meant to be hosting the Euros in like 2028. It needs to be built. Everton couldn't just go, yeah, fair play, we'll just put it on hold. So it's a bit tough, and I'm not too sure I agree with it being on stadium costs as opposed to transfers, or that your punishment should be a performance punishment, like points for an off the field breach. So Forest, for example, with transfers, I think that's fair that you get an on pitch punishment. Ours, maybe it should have been something off pitch that doesn't affect it, because we've not gained a sporting advantage, which has been said by the commission. So
Yeah, I think one of the issues is that if Everton fans felt like these charges and like these punishments were making us more sustainable as a club in years to come, I think they'd be more likely to accept it. But it just seems like we're just in this hole now where it's just going to keep going. We're going to get these points deductions. We're not going to pass the regulations. It just comes to a point where, where does it stop? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I think with the I mean, there's more to the outsider football fans as well who aren't in the Everton bubble. They won't. I don't know if they're as aware, but there's more to it than the points deduction with 777 looming, and they are a bit they're a bit like not great. I haven't heard great things about them, but also we really need a new buyer. We can't afford to be relegated either, so it does feel like it's not really sustainable for us. Points deductions, the more you do this, the more we're slipping. If we go down, people are a little bit worried that financially administration might start to loom. So yeah, it doesn't really help us sustain. It's actually killing us quite slowly. And with the takeover or not takeover, it all seems to be making the perfect storm for Everton to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with all these points deductions now and appeals, that there is a chance that the season could be decided after the season now, and on the final day, nobody's going to know who's relegated, who's staying up. I mean, at this point, as the competitive integrity, has it been compromised?
I think so, yeah. I think it's I also, by the way, don't think it's fair on the teams around us, as much as it's, we can claim it's not fair on us, because we potentially have a situation where us or Forest are in the drop zone and Luton are saying now they're a point up, with the worst goal difference. And then if we appeal and we find out afterwards, oh, Everton will give you a point back, or Forest go down and they get points back, they'll leapfrog Luton, who thought they're safe, and then Luton go down and we'll feel rightly hard done by, because they've not done anything wrong this season other than, and I know people can go, well, without the points deductions, they'd have still been there anyway. But it just feels a bit mentally wise. It's going to affect their mentality. It's going to affect us. We're not going to know. We could go into the season thinking we're safe, and then we're like, or thinking we're done, and then being found out. It's just a really rubbish way to end the season. This is meant to be the best league in the world, and it's been decided off the field this year. Certainly at the bottom, anyway. The top seems to be competitive, but the bottom, which is half the fun of the Premier League, it's half the reason we have relegations in the English Football League, is that they are, while they're not fun for the teams down there, they are fun in terms of the competitive spectacle. That's been decided off the field. You're taking away that, competitive edge.
Yeah, well, as you said, we say the best league in the world, and now they might be moving on to this what is it called, like premium tax, and they're scrapping the point deductions. And once again, that's sort of think, where's the fairness in that? We've got the deductions now; they've been scrapped suddenly, and it just seems like these news rules that will come into place are just going to protect the bigger teams again, because they've got the financial backers to go, oh, we might be spending beyond our means here, but we've got a big, we've got a lot of financial backing. So it just seems like the gap between the top six and the bottom clubs is just going to get larger and larger. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think I don't think it's a coincidence that Man City's investigation will take a while, because they've said it spans 10 years. I've not heard much about Chelsea since it was first brought up, but I don't think it's a coincidence that those two will probably be investigated next season after the rules once again change to a luxury tax, especially Man City, because people are, 115 charges, whether you like it or not, that's a lot of points deducted under their current marker, whatever that is. You'll expect, for 115, if they're found guilty for at least half of them, you would expect, over 20 points potentially, going off what they've been giving out this season. So I don't think it's a coincidence the rules are changing now. It does seem a bit like, and I'm glad they're changing, because it will benefit us next season, potentially. I think it'll still benefit us more than the points deductions will. And I guess it's fairer if it's off the field, it's an off the field punishment. But it does feel like this season it could already be too little too late. That's on the assumption we stay up already. And it does feel like us and Forest have been the examples. The whipping boys will be punished, and then next year it'll be fine. And yeah, potentially, if we don't get relegated, we can look at it as a bit of a rubbish year, but we'll forget about it. But if it's one where we go down and then they change the rules, Everton fans will rightfully moan about this for quite a long time, because we will rightfully feel a little bit hard done by if you were going to change the rules anyway in a year's time.
Yeah, so with the chop and changing of rules now, would you welcome an independent regulator in football?
Yeah. I'm not too sure they're going to be the saviors of football that everyone thinks they will be, but I think they will bring a little bit more. I don't want to say professionalism, but but a bit more organisation.
Yeah.
If rules are in place, and rules are in place for a reason, which is what the general football fan is saying, rules shouldn't be being changed on the fly like this. If we did have a regulator, one of the big things I'd hope is the rules are just black and white. They're in the book. You know the rules. They've talked to the teams. They've made it very clear what is and isn't a breach, and they move forward with that. I do think it would be better than the status quo, but I'm not too sure I would jump on that they're going to be the saviours of football, because you never know until you do. It's the devil you do or devil you don't, isn't it? But I think the status quo needs a bit of a change up.
Yeah. All right. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'll just stop that now. There you go. Nice one. Are you